Hello, this video is going to explore the line tool and the pen tool in Adobe Illustrator. So the first thing that we need to do to get started is that we're just going to go ahead and create a new document or a new file. It doesn't matter the size, and it doesn't matter any sort of the specifications that you can create here. We just really need an artboard and an area for us to explore and practice. So I'm just going to leave this just as Untitled 4, just an 8.5 by 11, but it truly doesn't matter what it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and press create. And then once this is created, you can see that we have just an artboard to go ahead and explore the different tools. Okay, so once you have this open, if you go to the line segment tool, the line tool is over here on the right column of the toolbar, but you can easily access it by going to the backslash key on your keyboard, which is the short command key. So if I just click on that, it will automatically select this tool. And you can see that because it has this little arrow right here, you can see that there are other tools nested into this tool. So I'm going to click and hold so that I can see the other tools, and then I'm going to move my mouse over, and then I'm going to go over and hover over this bar here so that it will create a tray. And this tray then or now shows all of the tools in this tool, the line tool. All right, so the first thing is we're going to just go through each of these, and I'll show you different ways to modify. Of course, any of these you can always just click on the tool or click on the artboard, and a dialog box will come up and it will have different options in there. But we're going to go ahead and just select the tool. If you click and drag, so the way this works is you click and drag in order to make a line, for example, and then I click and drag. It does not have the ability to make a series of line segments. It just makes a singular line segment. Okay, so I can obviously kind of go back and adjust this by clicking back on one of the anchor points here and moving it around. You can see if you click the artboard, I can also type in the specific dimensions and also the angle, and of course give it a fill if I'd like. All right, I'm going to press cancel here, and I'm going to go ahead and select everything on my artboard, which is just Command A, and then I'm just going to press delete in order to get rid of anything that we've drawn. Now let's go ahead and look at the second tool. The second tool in this tray is called the arc tool. And again, you're going to click and drag, and as you click and drag, so I'm not releasing, so you see I'm kind of extending this and making it a different shape. Now, one of the things that I can do with this arc tool is I can change the curve. So if I use the up and down keys, so if I do up or down, I can go ahead and modify how much this curves. So this is, I think, can be super helpful and quite useful as you're working through this. And you also can flip the curve. So say that you have this curve, but you really need it to go the other way. We can use the short command key of F. So I'm still holding on down the mouse, and if I press the F key, you can see that it flips the orientation of this arc tool. Okay, so this would be how we can go ahead and change and modify. This is probably one of the tools that is most used in this nested toolbox here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and deselect here, and then I can go ahead and draw out different things. You can see that if I move to the left or to the right, it makes the curve different. And you can see when I clicked on this, I went down, so I can make it go down, or I can come up. I'm just moving it around on the artboard, and you can see it's creating a different shape. And of course, I'm just using my up and down keys in order to adjust or change the curve of this arc. All right. So you have the F key in order to flip it, and you have the up and down keys on your keyboard in which you can change and modify the actual curve. All right, just like I did before, I'm going to do Command A in order to select all and then press delete. And then I'm going to go to the next one. The next tool here is the spiral. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click the tool. I'm going to click and drag. And as I click and drag, you can see that it makes a spiral. And of course, I'm just kind of turning it, and it changes its orientation. So I'm clicking and holding this like this. I can increase or decrease the number of segments by using the up and down arrows. So you can see that I can do that. I can also adjust the how condensed this is by holding down the command key. And if I hold down the command key and then I move my mouse, you can see that I can change the space in between the lines. So say that I want something super tight like this, I can go ahead and release the command key and then continue adding line segments in here by using the up key here, and you can see that I can put a zillion in here to make almost like a bullseye. So this is another sort of a neat way to work on this. And then again, I can change the orientation and stretch it as need be. Okay, so this is also a really cool and neat tool that we can work with in here. All right, with that being said, we can also, when we have this, I actually let up on my mouse before I told you that you can press the R key. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this and then draw it again. See, it saves the last specifications that you use. So you can see that as I deleted it and then I clicked it again, I'm getting the same tool that I just, or the shape that I just deleted. So I've pressed the R key. The R key will reflect it. So you can see that it changes how it's rotating or how it's the orientation. That's the word I was looking for, the orientation. So it's the R key that allows you to rotate or not rotate, to reflect what we are working with here. All right, I'm going to press delete. And of course, like I said, if you are working in this tool and you don't want to click and drag, you can always go to the artboard and just click, and a dialog box can come up. And you can see you can put in any sort of parameter that you would like. When I was saying, condensing the spiral, they call that decay. So this is what that, when we're making it smaller, or the spacing in between the individual lines, that's what's called the decay. You can also include how many segments. So say that I'm going to just do 10 just to make this easy here. And what if I change this to 50%? And I'll just leave the radius at what it is, and I'll just press OK. And you can see that now it's made me a spiral that looks like this, which is very different than the one that we initially created. All right, I'm going to press delete to get rid of that. Let's get into the next tool that's nested in here, which is called the rectangular grid tool. So in this one, we're going to click and drag, and you can see that it automatically creates this grid for me. And again, just like we've kind of been doing before, we're making this grid like this. We can also use the arrow keys in order to make more horizontal lines like this. So we're going to go up and down in order to make more or less. So that might be helpful. You can also do right and left, and this will also either increase the number of vertical lines, or it can go ahead and decrease those vertical lines as well. Now, say that so I haven't deselected this, say that you want to actually skew this so that not every cell or section is the same. Well, I can use keys, so if I want to change horizontally, I can use the keys X or C in order to skew this. So for example, if I press the X key, the more that I press, you can see that it's skewing it. And as I go to so X and C, so if I do C, it's on the right side, you can see that I'm moving it back over, and I'm skewing it over to the right side. So I'm going to kind of just get that back here. And then for the vertical, we can use the keys of F and V. So if I press F, you can see that I'm skewing down, and if I press the V key, I'm skewing up. Okay, so and then don't forget that if I decide that I want more lines, I just have to press the up and down key and then adjust where I'm using the F or the V key in order to add more segments. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and now release my mouse, and I'm just going to press delete. You can also, like I said before, click on the tool, click on this, and then you can go ahead and you can manually go in and provide all of the characteristics that you would like. So the actual size, how many horizontal dividers, how many vertical, the number of them, how you want to skew them. So you get to do all these things in the dialog box. Of course, the shortcuts just seem to be easier and faster for someone that is working at this all day. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press cancel. And then we're going to look at our last tool that's nested in this line tool. So we're going to click and hold and pull out, and you can see that it is making a circular a polar grid tool here. And you can see that it is warped based on how I'm doing this. I'm just have it clicked on my mouse. So if I actually hold down this shift key, it will now make it so that it's a perfect circle. And then of course I can hit or hold down the space bar and I can move it around. So just like we've looked at before, you have the ability to do that just like we've done before. Okay, so now that, so you have to actually hold down the shift until you deselect. Or if you lift up the shift, you can see that it will change back so that it's warped like this. Okay, now in doing that, holding the shift key down, or at least kind of holding it in place, I can then use the up and down keys like this to add more concentric circles, excuse me, like this. And then I can use the side to side, so moving left or right, in order to add more lines. And you can see that you can add them. You can just go ahead and subtract all of them. So it's not just where you have to have a line. So these vertical or horizontal, or you might want to think of them as like pie shapes. So you can do that as well. And this can be super useful. Okay. And then before you release your mouse, you can always make sure to click down on the shift key if it needs to be a perfect circle. And then when I release it, you can see that now I have this set up here for me. All right, and then just like we've done before, you can always click on it and get to the dialog box and also put in any characteristics of something that you're looking at specifically. All right, so that is all the tools nested into the line tool here. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this tray, and I'm going to go ahead and delete what we have here, and I'm going to go ahead and just close out of this file. Okay, so I don't want to go ahead and save this. The next file that will come open is, so if you hopefully have downloaded the file that I have for you here, and we're going to use the pen tool. So I just kind of zoomed out here. I want to make sure that I zoom out so I can see everything. I will end up zooming in here. So let's go ahead and do that so that we're focused on these dots here. All right. So Illustrator is primarily uses the pen tool. So I have a lot of students that really, when they first start, they can get really frustrated with the pen tool. But the pen tool is the tool that can just about do anything in Illustrator. And it's the tool that, in order to say that you know how to use Illustrator, you really need to be comfortable with using the pen tool. So we're going to look at the pen tool right now, and you're going to develop the pen tool with practice. So this is a tool that you should get very familiar with throughout the semester. So the pen tool is the third tool down on the left side of the tool bar that I have here. And the short command key is the letter P. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to get the letter P here. All right, so the way that the pen tool, it's relatively easy. It's very much like the line tool, except you can continue on making lines where you can't just make a singular section or segment of a line. So I'm going to go to the very top here, and I'm just going to click over the center dot here, and I'm going to click down here as well. So I'm just going to like connect the dots, if that makes sense. Here, I'm just clicking in the center here, and you can see that I can continue on. Okay, so let's see, I'm going to turn that off real quick like this. All right. So we have this like this. I can make a square. You might say, why would I do this? I'm just doing this for the sake because I'm going to do something different in just a moment. When I get to, so each one of these dots is an anchor, right? So these are each of the anchors here. And I want to create, so right now this would be an open shape because it's not closed. I want to close this shape by making this final segment. And when I come up and I take my cursor and I hover over the last segment here, you can see that a little circle shows up next to my little cursor. And that tells me I'm going to be able to close this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you can see now if I were to just take the selection tool, I should be able to, whoops, why is this not? Oh. I can move it like this, and now I have a closed shape. Now, to get back to where we just moved it, I'm going to press Command Z to move us back. So undo, that's what Command Z is. Command Z is to undo something. So if you do something and if you want to undo it, you just press the Command Z. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to undo again because I want to get rid of this last line segment. And when I come back to the pen tool here, you can see that when I hover over one of the anchors, do you see how I have a different, so when I move away, it has a little asterisk. And when I come and click over the anchor, I'm actually not clicking, I'm just hovering over, I get this little line here. And then this line helps me to make another line here. So hopefully you saw that. So I'm going to undo this again just so you can see. Say that, and actually this is a good reminder for me. Say that I got rid of that line segment. And I just have this as an open shape. And I'm like, I really need to close that shape. So let me show you how you do that. All you have to do is click back over on this anchor point, and then I'm just going to go ahead and click on this, and then it goes ahead and closes it. Okay, so if you ever have an incomplete shape that you would like to close, that's an easy way for you to do that. All right, so I'm going to now do Command Z just to kind of move us back here. And then I'm going to go back to the pen tool. And again, I want to hover over this. And when you have this line that comes up next to your cursor, I'm going to click, okay, to select that. So you see how when I do that, maybe it's a little harder there. There's a little caret that shows up here. And that caret tells us that we can go ahead and make this into a curved line. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to drag this out. And you see when I do this, it just has this handle, right? So this is called a handle, and the handle works wherever I bring the handle, this is where it's going to bring the next line. So it's almost like a leading line, if that makes sense. So I'm going to release that like that. I haven't connected it, but as soon as I release that, do you see that I now get another sort of guideline that is curved? And I'm going to go ahead and now come in and close this, and it has created a handle. Okay, so I'm going to click this to finish it, and I have a handle now that allows me to adjust this curve. So while this is still selected, if I hold down the Command key, do you see that it changes my cursor? And this allows me to then just move this handle and adjust this without deselecting and then going back up and selecting the direct selection tool. Okay, so a shortcut here is holding down the Command key in order to change this handle here. All right, so does that make sense there? All right, the next thing I want to show you, we're going to leave the shape like this. I'm just going to do Command Z, and again, sort of kind of get us back to where we were. And I'm going to do it again so that it takes me back to this original shape here. And I'll have this fixed when I post this image here. All right, so I have these two straight lines here, and say that I want to make this one curved. I can make sure that this one is curved by clicking and holding and dragging. Okay, so I'm going to click, I'm going to hold, and then I'm going to drag. So do you see how on this one I get two anchors, right? And I can rotate this any way that I want, but say that I want it to be a perfect sort of curve. I'm going to hold down and hold down the shift key, and as I do that, you see how it doesn't allow me to move it from left to right? The further that I stretch these handles, the more of the curve that I'm getting, okay? So once I have that and I have the curve that I want, I can lift my shift key, right? So I can lift my shift key, or I can lift my mouse like that. So you see how I'm doing this? Before I conclude and I continue this on, I showed you that you can hold down the command key, but you see when the command key, when you have two handles, it actually moves both of them. But say that I don't want to move both, I just want to move one of them. I can hold down the Option key, and I can then adjust this and move this the way that I want, and then I can continue on and then go ahead and close the shape. Okay, so say that once I have this, I still want to make some adjustments. I can do two things. One is I can go to the direct selection tool. I can hold down the Option key, and when I do that, you see it allows me to have access without having to select another key in order to adjust these handles here. I can also, the short command key here is Shift C, so if you hold down Shift C, this actually takes me to another tool that's nested in the pen tool. And this one is called the Anchor Point tool, okay? And when I have this, I want to show you two things. One is not only when I click on this, it will reset it back to the original state. So it's going to make it a perfect 90-degree angle. So I can do this and I can re-stretch it so that I can then move it the way that I want. And if I want to make sure that this is perfectly vertical, I push down the Shift key and then I just drag out, okay? Then I can come in and hold down the individual key here, right? So actually I don't need to hold down anything, I just clicked on it. And then I can make that adjustment so that I go one at a time, okay? All right, so now that I have that, I can deselect. What's deselect again? It's Shift Command A. And once I have that, you can see that it deselects and I didn't touch anything and I didn't mess up my shapes. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move over. So I'm going to leave this like this. I'm just going to take and hold down the space bar, and I'm going to move over to the right side of this artboard. Now I've provided this sort of simple grid here because we're going to make lines that curve up and curve down. So we're going to go back to our pen tool, and we're going to start just at the beginning here. So at this line here, I'm going to click. And I'm going to click and drag. So I'm going to click and drag like this, okay, so that it's going up, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and then I'm going to release it. So you see how it's letting me kind of create this curve here. I'm going to click and drag again. So I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to go down this time, and you see that it is making the curve that I want. If you didn't get this exactly on the spot, so I can see that right now as I'm looking at this because it's not perfectly overlapping the dash line, I can hold down the space bar and it allows me to move the point and get it exactly over top like this, and then I release the space bar, and that now allows me to get the point exactly where I want. And before I release this, I'm going to hold down the Option key now so I can separate this handle from the top. And now what I want to do is I'm going to move this handle and I'm going to move it all the way up to the top and overlap this one here. And I'm going to deselect, and then it's going to allow me to do this one again. So I'm going to click and drag like this. And I want to make sure that it's about the same height. And you see, I did it again where I didn't actually, whoops, I should have actually, I'm going to move that in just a moment. Let's see, can I do that? There we go. So you can't hold down the Shift key when you're doing this. I want to make sure I get this sort of perfectly overlapping here like this, perfect, like that. And then I'm going to pull up, and I'm going to try to visually sort of match the height, okay, that I did before. Whoops. I accidentally lifted my fingers, so you can see that you don't want to actually lift your fingers on any of the tools. And then I'm gonna hold down I can hold down the Command key if I want, But I'm not actually going to do that. I just did Command Z to stop because now I want to do a bottom one. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag up just like I was doing before so I can make the arc like this. And I'm just going to drag up and sort of match the two green lines here. And then I'm going to click off. And then as that one has the curve, that's where I released it. I'm now going to do another one here where I'm going to then drag upwards like this. And I'm going to use my space bar to sort of line this up like this. And then continue to drag so that it matches similar to the one next to it. All right. So when I'm done, to stop a line like this, all you have to do is press return. And when you press return, it completes and finishes this line here. Okay, so that's the basics of just doing and using the pen tool. So this is what we've just created here. So I have an exercise. So I have this file. So if you will open up this file, we'll go ahead and trace this. And this is just a practice for us. So make sure you have your pen tool. One of the things that I really want to make sure to say here is the best way, especially when you're in curves, is that you don't want to do something like this where you press in tons of little sort of spaces like this, because this will take forever. And I'll show you a better way. So one of the things that we want to do is, so I'm going to actually do Command Z to go back here. We want to make the least amount of points or anchors in order to create the curve, and that way we have a nice smooth curve. So I'm going to click here. It doesn't matter where you start necessarily. Just find a place that you can start. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to look at where is the smoothest curve. So when I'm looking at this, it looks like it goes down right here. So instead of clicking all the way along this, I'm going to come over here to where it kind of comes down like this, and I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to pull out so that I kind of make that curved like this. So everybody see that? And then I'm going to hold down the Option key so that I can bring this handle back. And actually, I'm going to go right over or really close to that point, and then I can continue. So instead of going to the height of this, I'm going to come down to the next low point here. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to drag again. Okay, and then I'm just going to adjust this as need be, and I'm going to now hold on the Option key, and I'm going to bring this back up. Now in this one here, I want it to kind of go in the direction of this, so I'm going to bring this out a little bit. I might need to adjust this depending on how things are going here, but I'm going to go ahead and click here. It doesn't make the line. Remember, that's just the handle here. And now that I have that, do you see I'm able to kind of pull this out? Now, I went and did too much here, okay? So I know I did too much because it's kind of locking it down. So I'm going to kind of give that curve. And before I do anything else, I'm going to hold down the Command key. And the Command key will allow me to go in and adjust the handles without losing the ability to kind of continue working on my lines here. All right, so when you hold down the Command key, you see that it moves both of them. So let me get the top one done first where I like it, okay, like this. Now I can go to my Option key, and it separates it from the other side, okay? And then this will allow me to sort of continue to build like this. Okay, and if I'm not sure how I built, so it just takes some practice. I'm trying to show you what it might look like, what your experience might be like as you continue to work. Okay, so now that I have that, I can come here. Let's see, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to click here, and then as I do that, I can stretch. Again, remember, you have the ability to come in and make adjustments along the way so that you don't have to go back and fix anything afterwards. I mean, certainly you can, and that's an acceptable way, but the more comfortable you get in doing this, the smoother and easier it's going to be. And like I said, I'm kind of trying to mimic how I think you all might work in figuring this out. So I'm kind of doing the same sort of thing. All right, so in this one, do you see how it kind of curves down like this before it comes up? I'm going to actually make a point or an anchor point, maybe probably somewhere around here, so that I can make that curve, hold down the Option key so that I can continue sort of going in the right direction here. And then I'm going to come around to the other side almost like it is vertical oriented. And then this will allow me to make some adjustments. Do you see how that's working there? And then I'm going to hold down the Option key and I'm going to just move this down a little bit. And then let's see if I can, I'm going to close this off and I'm going to click and drag so that I can kind of get this shape here. Okay. All right, so we have our line here. You see that you don't see anything in the inside, and part of that is because in this section right here of our board, it shows that we have a fill of white and an outline of or stroke of black. So if you can't see it, let's go ahead and click on the center, which is the fill, and I'm going to turn that off by using this button here. And now we can see what was behind it. We're going to click back on the stroke here. And then now what I can do is I can come in and I can refine this. So I got really close, but it's not perfect. So let's see if we can refine this. An easy way to do this is doing Shift and C, and it brings us back to that tool where you can make adjustments here. So if I'm just sort of adjusting this one side, and then I'm coming to this other side, you see that I have the ability to come in and sort of tweak so that I can get it exactly the way that I want, like this. And then I'm going to come and grab this one. You need to make sure that when you select one of them and you don't want the other one to move, you have to hold down the Option key. Okay. Remember, if you need to move or adjust this point, so I'm going to zoom in right here. So if I need to adjust this point, you're going to go to the Direct Selection tool, which is the letter A on your keyboard. I'm going to click on this, and I have to click on it once, and then I click on it again, and it will allow it to move independently from the line itself. And I can tell that this is where it needs to be because I can see the direction change here in this dash line. So once I have that, I can then, in the Direct Selection tool, I can move this back into place. And then I can make some adjustments like this, okay? And then I can do the same here, and I can do this here as well. So do you see how I'm doing this so that I make sure that I'm going right over this as we work here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just make some little adjustments here. And the goal in this is that over time, you're going to get better and better at doing this, where it lines up, so that you can be super precise in doing this, okay? If you find that maybe it would be better for you to have an additional point, if you click on the P key for the pen again, I can click on the plus sign, and when I click on the plus sign, it will allow me to add another point. I got that error message because I didn't click actually on that line, okay? Now, once I've done that, if I do move back to Shift C or press the A key, I can click on that and then adjust it. And as I do that, you see how I'm able to perfectly line that up. That sort of thing is what's going to be important as we're working on this, because I do want you to figure out how to perfectly trace something. And it does take some finagling and some adjustments here in order to make this work. So it may be, if you can't get it exactly the way you want, maybe the easiest thing to do is add an additional point. But the goal is, keep in mind, the goal is that you want the fewest number of points so that you can have smoothness curves, okay? You also don't want to have too many points because it will mess up how this will work. All right, so I'm going to adjust that, and then I can come here and adjust this down. So do you see how I'm able to do a better job of sort of perfecting this? All right, so we have the whites of our egg here. All right, I'm going to deselect, which is Shift Command A. And then I'm going to go to my ellipse tool. So if you remember, it's in the shapes tool. So do you remember where the shapes tool? It's right under the T here. So if I click and hold, My ellipse is the L key. And because this is a perfect circle, I find it easiest here to come into the center, hold down the Option key so that I'm drawing the circle from the center, and I'm going to click and drag, and as it comes out, I'm going to then add the Shift key. Once I have the Shift key, if it's not perfectly aligned, I then add the space bar so that I can move it over the tiniest bit. I have to release the space bar so that I can either make it smaller or larger, like this, as I'm working on sort of getting it perfectly aligned. All right, so now we have sort of this egg shape here. Now I want you to practice and work on doing this little slice of pie. So I would go about doing this. Start at the beginning here, where maybe you make the shape here and you work around. I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'm going to ask you to think about how you might do it, and then go ahead and make this shape. Okay, so now that I've done that, certainly this could be tweaked a bit more, but I just really wanted you to use this exercise just in class for us to practice. So once you've done that, you should have two shapes like this. And then what we're going to do is I have another sort of worksheet that I'm going to ask you to do for homework. But this gives you sort of the basic understanding of how to use the pen tool to be able to navigate and draw.